Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, but we're not just talking about Dungeons and Dragons, we're talking about monster tactics for the Giant Fire Beetle. And the Giant Fire Beetle, as I have just ranted about, it's one of my favourite monsters, and then suddenly Dungeons and Dragons 5e came along and what do? They kind of nerfed it and made it kind of boring, and it doesn't really feel like a giant fire beetle anymore that does anything other than just get crushed by the players. But if you turn to page 325 in the monster manual, you'll see some details on the giant fire beetle. It gives you a tiny descriptive text and a stat block. And we're going to make some changes to the stat block. I'm certainly going to suggest a couple of alterations, and you do not need to follow my suggestions. By all means, you can disregard everything I talk about right now. Now, the giant fire beetle is odd in that it has blind sight. It doesn't have dark vision. It's a nocturnal creature. It usually interacts with anything at night rather than during the day, but it has blind sight up to 30 feet. Now, beyond 30 feet, it doesn't really know that anything is there. Commonly found in underground locations such as mines or caves or dark forests. It's the sort of thing that adventurers and miners like to dispatch and then harvest the glands because they produce light for quite a long time. It's like having your own smelly, squishy sunrod that doesn't look like a sunrod, doesn't feel like a sunrod, and will probably just make a mess later on when you finally get a chance to dispose of it. Yes, but it's got the ability to produce light, and I have a lot of issues with this particular feature, particularly because it doesn't have anything to protect itself with. It's like a bullseye, but we're going to talk about that in a second. So blind sight does not rely on sight, as I just discussed, so eyes are not required. So the giant fire beetle is comfortable in darkness, and it suffers absolutely no penalties to perception checks or attack rolls. And this includes dark vision. So whether it's in dark vision, in darkness that's created by magical means, or natural dark vision or darkness, it does not matter. They feed on carrion or dead flesh, flesh or bone, but they will attack a living creature provided it doesn't have something to eat already. So if it's got carrion or dead flesh or bone, it will probably just stick to that. But if something small comes along, something say small size or smaller, then there's a chance that the beetle will attack. The giant fire beetle does not really fly, and it used to fly and now it doesn't. Instead, it just has a land speed of 30 feet. Personally, I feel like a giant fire beetle that has, well, I'm sure it always had wings. I would give it wings, personally, and give it a fly speed of 30 feet. On the ground, 30 feet, fly speed of 30 feet. It just makes it vastly more interesting, and because right now it can't escape. It's got so few hit points, it's going to get pummeled really, really quickly. As a creature of any kind of insect nature, it's probably one of the most boring ones I've seen. And it's got such a cool name, but we're going to change that. We're going to get a little bit rid of the lameness, and we're going to bring it in and make it far more interesting. Now, adventurers and miners who are likely to encounter something like the giant fire beetle, probably going to find it feeding on carrion, as I said, but there's also a chance it might be feeding on plant life, or dead plant life, or dead plant matter, if it cannot find something that is meat-ish. Otherwise, the giant fire beetle will generally be found if it hasn't got food to feed off, travelling in search of food. Fire beetles are unlikely to flee, and this is due to the fact that they have a low wisdom and a low intelligence, but more importantly, a single blow will usually kill this creature outright rather than injure it. So it doesn't often get a chance to actually flee, even if it would, because it has so few hit points. It's got an armor class of 13, but with only 4 hit points, most adventurers and even most miners who try to attack it are probably going to kill it straight away. The only thing that the giant fire beetle can do is bite, which is really boring, and it has an average output of about 2 hit points, and it's got a +1 to attack, which I feel is far too low. I would like to increase that to a +3. Otherwise, it does. Look, most of the level 1 characters are running at a +5, so it's just it's far too low to be of any significant challenge to them, which is why the challenge rating is 0 and why you get like 10 XP for killing it. If it hasn't already had a meal, it is unlikely to attack. So if it's already had a meal and it's full, it's unlikely to attack a living creature. And as I said, it's unlikely to attack anything larger than small size. Now, if you're medium sized, it's probably not going to go after you. But if there's like a gnome or a halfling in the party, that's probably the character they would go after. Otherwise, something bigger than that, they're probably going to get scared off by. Now, it has the illumination feature, which makes it impossible to do any kind of stealth whatsoever. It basically paints a bullseye on this creature and says, please kill me now and take my glands. Really, really strange. I've never really liked the fact that that's the case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how you can make this monster significantly more interesting, because right now I don't like it. It's really boring. So what I would do is you can leave the bite attack as it is if you want, but I would personally increase that to a +3 rather than a +1 to attack. You can keep the damage the same for the bite, but what I would suggest is adding in a recharge fire spit attack or a breath weapon. I think that a fire spit attack that targets one creature is probably going to be fine, but personally I think the best option for you is going with a breathe fire or spurt out fire in a 15-foot cone. And the kind of attributes that I would give it is this fire spurt or breath. I would give it a DC 13 dexterity check saving throw required to actually avoid it. I would put out between about 1d6 or 1 6-sided dice +2 worth of fire damage. I would increase its challenge rating for this monster to a quarter CR rather than just a 0 modifier, a 0 challenge rating, and that will make it vastly more interesting. And now now it makes sense. Now it is called a giant fire beetle, and it actually produces fire rather than just has glands that make it glow and then basically paint it as this is the thing to kill now, and then take my glands, so you can walk around cave areas well lit. I've pretty much laid out a whole bunch of little beetles here, and they are just feeding off dead individuals. People have died or for whatever reason. That's the sort of thing that they would probably be feeding on, and they probably wouldn't be interested in the party unless there was nothing to feed on. Personally, I feel that if they started being attacked, they would probably flee and just come back later and feed on the dead carrion when they get a chance. Now, if you found this video helpful or informative, and I certainly hope you did, then please share and like the video. If you're not already subscribed, then press the subscribe button. If you like this sort of content, because I do more of this sort of stuff, I don't just do Dungeon Master content, I do player content as well. And I do that in blocks of about 10 days, and then I change things around and move from Dungeon Master to player. There's also a bell button beside the subscribe button, and if you click that, you'll get notified when I go live. It also tells you when I publish a new video. If you want to support my channel, watch more of my videos, I get a bit of AdSense revenue. That's really helpful. Thank you very much for those people who are watching my channel. I don't do Patreon, but down in the description you'll find affiliate links. You know the story with affiliate links. You click it on, you go buy something online if you do that sort of thing. Most of them are for Amazon. I get a small commission, you pay exactly the same price. And look, if you have any questions and any feedback, I can see people are putting stuff up in the chat box right now. This is a good time to start talking to me, asking questions, giving me feedback, telling me how you use your giant fire beetle that really doesn't produce fire, which is really boring. But we're going to, like I said, we're changing that right now. We're going to make this monster vastly more interesting so it lives up to its name. Otherwise, if you're not part of the live stream, then down in the comments you can ask questions, give feedback, tell me if you agree or disagree, tell me if you found this video useful in any way. This is all really useful and helpful to me because I know then exactly what I should be doing or if I need to adjust things or add things in my videos. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.